Ending a story can be either the most euphoric thing in the world, or it can be the most devastating thing to happen to a work. Over the years, many series have come and gone, and some of the endings still get talked about to this very day. Whether it be the finale of The Sopranos, the finales of Friends, each of these has left audiences feeling something. Now, in the realm of cartoons, we can either get blessed in this regard, or be handed some hot flaming basura.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Well, we got both of those today, ladies and gentlemen. One of these endings worked and was the perfect send-off for a series, and the other ended up having a lot more questions than answers and did irrefutable damage beyond repair. You already saw from the thumbnail, but the two series I'm referring to are Ed, Edd, and Eddy and Star vs. the Forces of Evil. For anyone that doesn't know what Ed, Edd, and Eddy is, how do you not? It's the GOAT. But for the two people that don't, it was a series that ran from 1999 to 2009, and it's essentially a story about three kids from a cul-de-sac trying to get enough money doing scams to get themselves some jawbreakers. And Star vs. the Force of Evil was a Disney cartoon that ran on Disney XD from 2015 to 2019 about a girl named Star Butterfly who gets sent to Earth and she has to live amongst human beings to try and straighten her life out so she can be a proper princess. Both of these shows were immensely popular for their time. Well, Ed, Edd, and Eddy still talked about to this day, even way after its finale due to how great the show was, but these two shows ended in very interesting ways. Ed, Edd, and Eddy, after a rough last season, came through with a finale film that had plans of coming out in theaters, but after a certain film bombed in theaters, Cartoon Network had a change of heart and decided TV was their best bet. Danny Antonucci, the creator of the series, wanted to give fans a worthwhile send-off for the Eds and to answer very burning questions for the show. What is under Double D's hat? Spoiler, we never found out, but that's okay, I still love you, Danny Antonucci. And the truth behind Eddy's brother. See, with Ed, Edd, and Eddy's big picture show, it has a great setup with the Eds being on the run from the kids of the cul-de-sac off of a prank that has gone too far. We get a lot of great character moments between the Eds and see more of how their dynamic is and how it changed over time as the film was going on. It was able to touch on so many things and show you highs and lows of the group and them genuinely dealing with the repercussions of their actions. Even down to the tone at the beginning of the film, you knew that things were different here. The big picture show was able to deliver on a reveal that everyone and their mother wanted to know. What was the deal with Eddy's brother? Did the man even exist? It gave you a twist that even stems back to the earliest parts of the seasons of the show, with Eddy not revealing the whole truth about how abusive his brother actually was and trying to get the people around him to like him. It's a beautiful moment because even with all that at hand, his boys still support him and don't treat him any differently than how they used to be with him. It's a touching scene and the resolution for it was them essentially getting to beat Eddy's brother and the cul-de-sac kids all get along with the Eds, who were the social outcasts throughout the entirety of the show. It's this fantastic send-off for these characters that have been through so much at this point with all the shenanigans they pull. It was able to give you satisfaction that the Eds don't have to scam anymore. They don't have to be on the outside looking in. They can actually be a part of the neighborhood. The Eds attempted to do this before, but no one was really having it. Some would be more receptive than others to them, but the general consensus was that the cul-de-sac kids weren't fucking with the Eds. Yeah, the most negative to say is that it feels a tad rushed, but that's really it. Nothing that takes away from anything. It's a finale that is still in conversation for how solid it is. With the mass amount of media that has given us such awful endings, it stands above a lot of them that can say they satisfied audiences and everyone was content with what they were given. It understood what it wanted to achieve with this finale.
Bring the magic.
Yeah, sure.
Tear the fabric, clean the stones, stop the magic, break the ring, tear the fabric.
Help me! My queen!
Now, what hasn't been said about this finale as a whole? It's been 4 years since the show ended and people still come together to talk about how trash this ending is. And now I get to add to it, baby, because I got some words as well. The difference with Star is that this isn't a case of series was really good throughout its entirety and then ended like shit. It was good from the beginning, really good in its second season, started to drop off in its third season, tripped on itself in the fourth season, and then managed to shit itself in its finale. Star vs. like Ed, Edd, and Eddy was an episodic show, but the both of them had continuity. Pretty strong continuity at that. Nothing was ever forgotten, and it felt like past events mattered. With Star vs., the show shied away from being an episodic show about the wacky adventures of this magical girl with her best friend, and this family political drama involving race relations and shipping drama. My favorite. Now this could have worked if the writing team was competent, but we didn't get blessed on that front, let me tell you. And it ended up devolving into this mess that no one could have seen coming. The episode in question is titled Cleaved. At this point in the story, Marco and Star have to beat the big bad named Mina Loveberry, who's supposed to look like Sailor Moon. I know, I couldn't have guessed that myself. But the thing here is that the villain in question isn't believable. From what Star had to fight prior, they were essentially that much bigger in scale. They had better motivations for why they're going against the main squad, and it felt like our main characters were in actual peril. For the first 2 to a bit of 3 seasons, Star had to fight this guy named Toffee, who was the skilled general who's been a big deal for as long as he's been alive. He talked with such force and presence. He was his master manipulator. He was that guy. Granted, the way he gets clapped is very anticlimactic. He was still this huge character who's been built up, and whenever he appeared on screen, it made you feel like, oh shit, something's going to happen. In Season 3, we got Miss Heinous, aka Meteora. After going through the whole family drama arc, we realized that Miss Heinous was actually the true heir to the Butterfly Throne, and was essentially stolen from her family after her mother's imprisonment on false charges. Okay, she has a claim to why she doesn't like the main character. Great. To put into perspective at this point, Mina was just a character that showed up periodically, low-key a gag character almost. This character did nothing for the story. Yeah, she was the enforcer for the Butterfly Kingdom, but she's long past those days. But now in Season 4, she's the big bad. And not just any big bad, but the big bad to end the entire series. Do we see the problem here? This is like having the My Cabbages guy in Avatar The Last Airbender take the spot that Philo and Ozai was supposed to have. Nothing led up to this being the penultimate bad guy, and the resolution to it is even worse. So a long story short, Mina doesn't like monsters. Star up until this point has to overcome her racism towards monsters and wants to better the relationship between humans and monsters. Mina doesn't want that because she comes from a time where monsters were killed and disliked. So Mina wants to go back to those times. So at this point they're trying to fight her, but then Star's mom, Queen Moon, jumps in and says that she was behind the whole affair and that Mina works for her. But then Mina ends up betraying Moon because Moon didn't account for an insane person to actually be insane.
Mina, this is madness!
Shut up, bitch!
And now they have to scrounge together a plan to beat her. So Star's plan is that magic, for all the time that it has existed, has caused more harm than good, so he must destroy all magic. I have to stress to you all how brain dead this thought process is. For example, knives are used for an assortment of things. They can chop up ingredients, open packages, used for whittling, all sorts of things. But you know what else knives can be used for? Murdering people. So because knives are used to uninstall someone's life, we must ban all knives. Do you see how ridiculous this plan is? Also, take into account that in the Star vs. the Forces of Evil universe, magic is the source of a lot of things, including life. Many different worlds and societies are solely dependent on magic. Star even has spells that live within her wand and have taken on lives of their own and have full-on families due to it. Star's decision is to erase all magic because some people used it for bad. She succeeds in this venture, by the way, and that isn't even the worst part. The show treats this as a win in her book, and that it was the right decision to make. So the complete genocide of so many races to beat one person was enough. And they didn't even fight Mina. Mina got stepped on by some unicorns and that was it. That's the end of the fight. And after Star destroys the magic, they just let Mina walk free. No one arrests her, no one tackles her to the ground, nothing. The bitch just ups and leaves. Eddy and Eddy, for as long as the show has gone on, has never once tried to be more than what it is. Episodic fun with shenanigans with the boys. Only shift the show took was that the kids are now going to school fresh off their summer break, but nothing too egregious. Star, on the other hand, decided to shift away from the episodic format into a more serial show tackling subjects that the writers simply couldn't handle at the time. I remember when Season 3's finale wrapped up and the episode was set to air in a couple weeks, and I'm thinking, hold up, they just now finished this episode? It wasn't done way beforehand? That's crazy. But nah, that very much did happen. Reason being is because the creator wanted to be written in real time so they can adjust certain things to reach fan demand. That's cute and all, but the fans aren't showrunners or writers. I appreciate you wanting to make your community feel as involved with the show as possible. Like, they used to show fan art of the show during commercial breaks when it aired, but this is not a conductive way to write a show, especially one that has now taken on a serial format versus an episodic one. The team behind Star got overly ambitious with what they had going on, and they couldn't deliver on it. Seasons 1 and 2 is like night and day compared to Seasons 3 and 4. Seasons 1 and 2 are very lighthearted and big on the comedy, while also delivering on sweet character moments, and at times, very emotional ones at that. Whereas Seasons 3 and 4, a lot of the time is spent on filler and relationship woes, which honestly could take a video on its own, and I'm already trying to get through this one. I know hindsight is 20/20, but in all seriousness, Star would have fared infinitely better had it kept the tone of Season 1 to Season 2. Especially seeing as these were the last 2 seasons that were held in very high regard within the fandom. Imagine if Eddy and Eddy stopped being about them trying to get jawbreakers and ended up being a story about the government not giving any funding to the cul-de-sac and is destroying the community. It doesn't fit. I feel shows sometimes feel like they won't be taken seriously unless they add a certain edge to it or have a tonal shift to keep viewer engagement. Ed, and Eddy at no time felt the need to do this. It kept the same tone as season 1 to the finale, and it worked out in dividends. It delivered on the jokes, gave us the laughs, gave us iconic moments, and is still cherished within the animation community and people that have a love for cartoons.
Now all we have to do is go up the... What happened to the stairs?
My parents took them down because I am grounded.
That's disturbing.
Star vs. ended up marring its reputation for something it didn't really need to tell. No one was looking at Star vs. to be a show that tries to talk about race relations and have allegories to racism, especially if you're not gonna do it properly. Did no one take notes from Avatar: The Last Airbender and how it can show the disparity between every other nation that wasn't the Fire Nation? No? No one at all? There is no shame with keeping a fun show fun. Danny Antonucci realized this. Ed, and Eddy is fun. It's not a serial show. And it's funny because Eddy's brother is an overarching character, and even they managed to deliver on the climax of his character than the overarching villains they have in Star. Ed, and Eddy remembered its continuity, and to tell you the truth, it didn't even need to remember it as consistently as they did, but it did, and I appreciate it a lot more because it feels like all these episodes matter at the end of the day.
Double D's! Everyone loves us! We're finally in, baby!
And it only took 130 episodes, 4 specials, and a movie, Eddy.
Ed, and Eddy didn't focus on arbitrary things such as relationships that take away from any of the stories the episode or even the finale was showing. In the big picture show, there was attention shown on Kevin's relationship with Naz, but this wasn't the bulk of the entire movie. Everything that could have went wrong with Star ended up happening. Nothing that transpired in the finale made you believe what was happening. It didn't feel earned. A lot of plot threads are forgotten. They used to have such attention to callbacks, but season 3 and onward, we saw much less of that. Ed, and Eddy's big picture show wanted to tie up any and all loose ends and to make sure this ending was an ending. It is the end to the Ed story. There's nothing more left to tell, and you're satisfied with this. Whereas in Star's case, the creator Darren Nefsey wanted to be as open-ended as possible so that we would have questions, and if she's fortunate enough to make a season 5, they have material to work with. Except your ending has a lot of damning ramifications, and all of that was really done so that the two main characters can end up together. This isn't to say that an ending needs to tie up everything in a neat little bow, but you need to at least make sure that it is a satisfying conclusion to what you have built. But usually with these overly ambitious stories, the endings tend to fall flat more times than not. Ed, and Eddy is one of my favorite cartoons of all time, if not the. It's one of the shows that inspired me to become a writer, so to see it be able to go on for so long and to end in this way was fantastic. I even cried as a kid when it ended. Star vs. had potential to be one of the best cartoons created, to be held in the same vein as Gravity Falls, but it got too big for its own good and ended up crumbling under the weight. For any writers of a show, especially if you have one that's going to be serial, I highly recommend having a show bible. These things will save your life in the long run. I know some writers like to be able to plan as they go, but for a formatted show like that, you need to have things set in place beforehand for the sake of consistency. It is better to be able to sit with these ideas for a while, make any necessary changes you can while still adding to the world of your story. It will pay off, trust. Also, a pretty tragic story, but I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan, so picture this. I had to wake my ass up early as hell in the morning to be let down by Star vs. ending, to then wait 10 or so hours for the finale of Game of Thrones, only for that ending to be cheeks as well. Ain't that about a bitch?